Let's talk about one of the other common myths of the SAT, and that's always answer C. Now, just like many myths, myths are always start on the basis of grains of truth that are built into it. As the SAT has been around for many years now, quite a number of decades, it's acquired certain urban legends, certain myths that have been associated with it that are not necessarily true. And one of them I want to explore today is myth about the SAT. Do you answer C? Well, first of all, if there's 5 multiple choice answers, statistically you have a 1 out of 5 chance, period. So therefore, biasing it to a letter C, statistically and probability-wise, actually makes no sense. However, there is a certain grain of truth in which answering with the letter C is a wise thing to do. So here's where the grain of truth comes in. In the SAT, if you answer with the letter C, what you find is that in the math section, sometimes you have ascending or descending amounts of numbers. As they ascend, so you might have choice A be 10, 12, B be 12, C be 14, D be 16, and E be 18. And therefore, if you chose 14, you can use one of the strategies on the process of elimination that we could go over in another video, where if it's not C, then you're either going to go lower or higher. If you go lower, then what will happen is you only have to go test one more, say test B, and if it's not B, then ergo it must be A. And the same thing holds true the other way. So that is where the idea of answer C definitely has a good point, whether you choose to view it is a viable method or not. Clearly, when you have ascending or descending numbers, answering C is a good choice. So let's talk about. So that's a grain of truth. So let's talk just a little bit more about whether A, B, C, D, or E are preferable to choose first. The SAT is a 4-hour test, and in a 4-hour test, it's very easy to become mentally fatigued. Very easy. And what you need to do is you need to go by this maxim, by this saying: the mind can only learn what the body can stand. And if you're seated too long, a lot of times that's going to throw you off from where you need to be. You're going to lose that edge. You may have a wave of mental fog kind of waft in your direction. So you need to do what you can to avoid getting this mental fog. And one of the things that you can do to avoid getting this mental fog is alternate. So you may start with choice A, you may start with choice E, you may start with C. By alternating, you're keeping it fresh. Now, if there's not a compelling reason to start with choice C, it's generally best, in my opinion, from 12 years of intensive tutoring on the SAT, to start either with A or E, so that in the course of the test, you are not likely to overlook a key answer. This is very important. And by alternating, instead of always starting with A and going process elimination, always starting with A, process elimination, I think you can already hear the repetition there. If instead you start with E, what you are doing is refreshing the brain somewhat. Now, one thing that also comes up with some students about picking the right letter is they say, is it possible to have the letter C 3 times in a row, or the letter B 3 times in a row? Is it possible to do that? Yes, it is, because these are probabilities, and it does happen. So do not make the assumption because you had B 3 times in a row, because you had C 3 times in a row, that it's automatically wrong. I go into a lot of depth into the internal structure of the exam, but there's magical thinking, assuming that this letter is better than that letter. And I really want you to avoid magical thinking, because the SAT is really grading you on logical thinking, scoring you on logical thinking. So again, we explored another myth of the SAT. Always choose C. Always avoid patterns of the letter appearing multiple times in a row. These are myths. Let's put them behind. Let's focus on actual preparation and things that you can constructively do to raise your score. I'm Darryl Hold with affordable-tutor.com, and I look forward to answering all your questions. Thank you.